Hi everybody, Pine Size here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining and I hope you enjoy. I figured since several of you were receptive to my Ehlers-Danlos video, I would go through occasionally and talk a little bit more about some of the various conditions I deal with, and hopefully in doing so, I can build a stronger community here of people who understand what I'm going through. Not necessarily those with the same conditions, but those who have chronic illnesses as well, because chronic illness is very common, and even rare chronic illness is very common, as well as educate people and possibly help somebody not have to go through the years of trials and tribulations that I had to go to before receiving my diagnoses. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that affects many people worldwide, myself included, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, or MCAS for short. So, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome is a condition that often goes undiagnosed due to its wide range of symptoms and the fact that it mimics other conditions so well. So, what exactly is Mast Cell Activation Syndrome? MCAS is a condition where the body's mast cells, which are part of our immune system, become overactive and release too many chemicals. This can cause a variety of symptoms, some of which can be debilitating. Triggers, for instance, can include temperature changes, stress, exercise, certain foods or beverages, drugs, odors, venoms from insects or animals, infections, mechanical irritation like friction or vibration, and sometimes even sunlight or water. What are some of the symptoms of mast cell activation syndrome? MCAS symptoms widely vary from person to person. It can include anything from itching, swelling, skin rashes, digestive issues such as abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, bowel movement changes, all the way to headaches, flushing or redness of the skin, difficulty breathing, bone and muscle pain, even lightheadedness or fainting spells, blood pressure changes, uterine cramping, heart palpitations, and even anaphylaxis. I'm sure some of you know, but anaphylaxis is a severe allergic reaction that can be life-threatening if left untreated. So how do you diagnose MCAS? MCAS diagnosis can be tricky as it often mimics other conditions, as I've said earlier. Several of the symptoms that I have are found in several other conditions that I am diagnosed with, as well as several of the symptoms like skin rashes, headaches, flushing of the skin, uterine cramping, things like that. Itching can often be swept under the rug as just a minor allergic reaction or just fatigue or PMS symptoms, or a headache is a headache until a headache is not a headache, and a headache is a symptom of something much different. So it's important to speak to medical professionals, and I emphasize professionals, multiple, who are knowledgeable about MCAS And these will range anywhere from hematologist, immunologist, rheumatologist, primary care, the list goes on. And I personally would recommend, as hard as it may be, to see these professionals when your symptoms are flaring. That way they get a better picture of what all you may be dealing with, as opposed to hearsay and being able to write it off as something else, which happens quite often and is not always gaslighting, and is not always done maliciously, and is sometimes done simply because they don't know any better. So, by speaking to a healthcare professional when you are in the midst of a flare, they can see the various areas of your system that are affected by said flare. And by seeing multiple medical professionals who deal with and are familiar with MCAS, they can hopefully put the pieces together sooner and realize what you are dealing with and get you onto a treatment plan, or help you to make the necessary changes to minimize the symptoms and possibly even the severity of what you are experiencing. There is diagnostic criteria for MCAS, such as finding clusters of 15 or more mast cells in a site other than the skin. I know myself, my MCAS was definitively found a couple years ago when I was doing a endoscopy for another condition, and we found clusters of mast cells within my esophagus and within my digestive system. Other signs of diagnostic criteria is abnormal shape of the mast cells. They'll look like spindles, or certain test results, such as an elevated tryptase level, or doing a 24-hour urine catch for prostaglandin D2, and even blood histamine levels. Now, as I said, because the symptoms and the severity waxes and wanes over time, you can have negative test results for these but still have MCAS, which is another reason why I suggest seeing medical professionals when you are in a flare, as hard as it may be. Trust me, I know. So, how do you treat MCAS? Currently, there is no one-size-fits-all treatment for mast cell, and there is no cure for it. Treatment really focuses on managing symptoms and identifying and avoiding triggers. This can be particularly hard because a lot of people don't realize something is a trigger until it actually triggers them. I myself have a trigger of peanut butter, and I grew up my entire life eating Reese's peanut butter cups and did not know it was a trigger until I developed hiccups. We'd gone through every wives' tale in the book to get rid of them, and we settled lastly on a spoonful of peanut butter, and I would have rather had the hiccups back. I went into anaphylaxis and have had issues with peanuts ever since. So some of the more common treatments will include antihistamines, mast cell stabilizers, lifestyle changes, and dietary modifications. Mast cell activation syndrome is not known to be genetic at the moment, but then again, the exact cause of MCAS is not known at the moment either. There is evidence pointing to a strong genetic link. One study recently found that 74% of those with MCAS had a first degree relative with the syndrome, and it is also commonly found in people who have genetic mutation conditions such as Ehlers-Danlos. So, is mast cell activation syndrome a neurological disorder, an immunological disorder, or something else? We're not quite sure just yet. However, it is associated with various neurological and psychiatric disorders, including headache, dysautonomia, a dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system, depression, generalized anxiety disorder, and many others. Is MCAS a disability? Mast cell activation syndrome is a condition that can be considered a disability under the Equality Act of 2010. Universities and other institutions do have a legal duty to make reasonable adjustments to accommodate students or individuals with this condition. And in some cases, people are bedbound or homebound due to the severity and the number of triggers that they have. As I said earlier, sunlight and even water can be triggers for some people with MCAS. So some people are even forced to stay indoors during daytime hours, and some people are forced to find alternative ways of bathing and cleaning and even cooking with water products and things like that. So, the overall impact of MCAS is wide ranging and daily. Uh, if left untreated, MCAS can lead to severe reactions such as shock, loss of consciousness, anaphylaxis, in some cases, even death. It affects multiple body systems, much like a typical allergic reaction, but the symptoms can continue to increase in number and severity as the condition progresses. Unlike most allergic reactions, traditionally, an allergic reaction, you're going to have that similar reaction each and every time you are presented with that allergen, as opposed to with MCAS, it can get worse or it can, in some cases, get better. Um, so that is another reason why I wanted to do this video on this particular condition, because imagine you are having reactions to something and you are not aware that you have MCAS and you're not aware that it can get worse, and you are continually exposing yourself to said allergen or trigger in this case, and you can wind up in the hospital in shock or in a coma or even, passing away from said trigger without even knowing what the issue was to begin with. So I hope this little informational video helped to explain another one of my conditions, and maybe even helped to shed some light on what somebody out there may be dealing with, and prompts them to seek medical assistance if they feel that they may be dealing with this. As I've said many times before, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, concerns, or if you think that you might be dealing with this and are looking for some assistance, some feedback, some pointers, ideas of where to start, things like that. I am pretty much an open book when it comes to most of my health conditions because, as I've said many times before, if I can prevent one person from having to go through the years of uncertainty or unknowing and the years of gaslighting or unintentional sweeping under the rug that I went through, I will answer those questions and I will gladly help point somebody in the right direction to figure out what it is they may or may not have. Not knowing is probably one of the hardest things to endure when it comes to having chronic illnesses. You know that something is wrong with your body, but you just don't know what it is, and it seems like nobody wants to really help figure it out.